Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 50th episode. Yeah, I figured you labeled it 49 once again just because you're terrified of turning 50. I mean, that's the only...
well, 2 more years. 2 more years, I turn 50.
That's all right.
Still there. It's still there, I think.
Yeah, you're doing better than I am, dude. So today we're going to be discussing, as the title plate said, Mnpctech and where Minnesota PC Tech came from, why it still exists, why it kicks so much ass, and exactly who the mad monkey in charge really is.
The silverback gorilla. And we've got Moss here. He's going to help us with the chat. I think the chat's going to be buzzing with questions today.
I see what you did there.
Mosquito jokes. They don't have all that.
So, guys, I honestly don't know how long we've got. Usually an hour for these hangouts. It could take longer. I've never really read a retrospective of my 16 years of being in business. I'm going to try it. But what you can do is follow along with me, and I'm going to do a screen share here. It actually works this time. Imagine if it didn't work this time, guys. It would not be good. So you can go to my store, mnpctech.com, and once you bring up the page, scroll down under About Us and go to the Landmarks page. I created this page this week, and I got to be honest, it was a pain in the ass. It's trying to think of, like, over 16 years, what were the things, like the milestones for each year. So I really was delving in. It was fun, but it was also stressful because, it's I wanted to share a lot more than I could. And like this particular picture where we're starting at, I spent hours trying to find this, and it turned out that I had to go back into a photo album and scan it. It was never online. But
here's the question on that one, Bill. Yeah. Are all those pictures of yourself around the computer? That would be hilarious.
No, like different hairstyles. Yes. Here's Bill with glasses, just to see what it would look like. No, that's my wife. But this is Bailey the Beagle, my first Beagle, and the expression on Bailey's face is, "Why is your screen so small?" I mean, no wonder why I'm losing my eyesight today, gang. I looked at that screen for 5 years. That was a 95.
Look at the size of that. Look at the size of that save dialogue in relation to the rest of the screen too.
I know. I can't believe it. But that was my first computer. I ordered a Dell, and it was a Pentium 1, 75 megahertz, 486 chipset, and that picture was taken in 2000. And I ended up under the guidance of my friend Brian Helt from my car club. I overclocked it from 75 megahertz to, I think, 80 or 81. And that was actually a big deal. He came over and he swapped out the thermal paste. He put on a bigger. I think we went from like a 60 millimeter fan or 40 millimeter to a better 60 millimeter fan for the processor. I think, and then also we bumped up the memory, and then I could rock on it for another, I don't know, maybe a year from that. But at that point, having Brian as a friend, I learned more about PC building, and I quickly discarded that computer after building my own. And I don't have any pictures of my first PC, but it was in the popular Chief Tech or Chen Ming Dragon that I'd shared in a previous episode, which was the most popular full tower at the time. But I do have the very first case mod that I ever did in 2001. And notice it's called the Dell Eater. At this point, I hated Dell because of those stupid Dell guy ads that were on the TV all the time.
Dude, you're getting a Dell.
Right.
Right. Okay. And Moss, this is what's really funny. And I found this morning. Hopefully I can bring it up here. Is I went to the web archive to see what my website looked like when I first launched it. And there's a page in here that I forgot about. In 2002, look at, there is. It says, dude, what's in your Dell? And what I'd done is made a page of the 13 advantages of having your PC custom built versus ordering a Dell. And unfortunately, the interwebs have swallowed that page, so I can't. It's no longer there. But it would have been interesting to read what my opinion is of why you want to have a custom PC built versus buying a Dell. So this was the first case mod that I did for a coworker, and guess what? The case that I used was an Inwin. It was an Inwin A500 mid tower that I bought used for $20. And I can tell you this, looking back on it, and I was so noobish and green that my only regret in using that case was that, if you guys recall, the single piece cover cases from that era.
Yes.
Ooh, they were so bad.
How the hell do I get all these parts to slide over the frame?
and Moss, noticed that it's got two 80mm intake fans, and it's got that window with the big automobile style U-channel molding around the window. It was a pain in the ass to access stuff in there, and because I didn't know any better, I didn't know that I should have gotten or found a case that had individual panels that slid on and off. It was all one piece. And then I had that car door handle on the top too. The inspiration behind the theme was his 1987 Volkswagen Jetta GLI 16 valve. And so we got the Tornado Red, and I use a gauge from a center console taken from the same car at the salvage yard, and the door handle from the same model car. It's got the headlight switch from the dash. And yeah, he had a lot of fun with it. And it had a gainward GeForce, like GeForce, boy, I don't remember, GeForce 2 or GeForce 3, I think, card in it. This would have been 2001, people. Yeah, it was real old school. But at the time, I was working a full-time job at a company called the Toro Company. The Toro Company has their headquarters here in Minnesota, and they still today make lawnmowers, snowblowers, blower vacs, trimmers. And I work in the admin services for the building. And what that meant was I had access to all the shops, like maintenance shops and stuff for the building. So what I would do is work after hours on my PC mod creations for friends. And this was at the time when I was on pimprig.com, and the Dell Eater was the first build that I'd shared on Pimprig at the time. Well, anyways, while I was doing this, working for Toro, they had this huge recycle bin in the back of the building where they put all their scrap. It was either steel scrap or it was aluminum. There was two individual dumpsters for it. And me, being the artist, when I'd leave, I'd always peek over the lip of that dumpster to see it was in there. And one day there was a sheet of perforated steel, and it was round hole. And I thought, this is perfect for like a front fan grill. Because at the time, cases didn't really have decent front intakes on them that were out there. And so people were modifying to improve the airflow and creating some type of venting on the front. And mesh was perfect. So what I started doing, and this is about the time when I had started my business, but it wasn't modding at the time. It was just like, well, actually, Mnpctech stood for Minnesota Personal Computer Technician. So I was just doing builds for people, repairs, or helping them with their computers part-time while I was working at Toro full-time. And at this point, through actually Pimprig and some other communities, when I started using mesh in builds, people were asking, where'd you get that? Can you get me some? And I thought, hey, I'm onto something here. And so I did the research to find a manufacturer that made perforated steel. And I got a business license, and state tax ID, federal tax ID, so I could get it at wholesale from the manufacturer. And when they produce these sheets of perforated steel, it's like 3 by 9 feet. Okay, that's how they produce it. And I'd have to, cut the pieces down for people. So what I did is I started doing custom orders where they would cut the pieces down for me so I could retail them. So while I was working at Toro, I was shipping sheets of Modders mesh all around the world to people that wanted it, because it wasn't something, and still to this day, that you can walk into a hardware or home improvement store and buy off the shelf. You can't. There's like aluminum versions of perforated steel out there, or like really heavy duty steel, but nothing like this. So I was selling this mesh, which I called Modders mesh at the time, because you got to give it a name, right? You just can't say perforated steel. You got to give it some personality and associate it with the hobby. So that's why I called it Modders mesh. And that was the first product that I was selling through my store, which was just, like you saw, it was just a real basic HTML site. If we jump up here, still in, no, it's not going to load. Very, very basic. In 2002, I'd set up just a basic store using PayPal HTML to take orders or have people contact me. Now, that was the very first product that Mnpctech was retailing. The second one, and this is because I found a need for it in a build that I was working on, is a billet fan grill that incorporated the mesh as a grill. Because the mesh on its own is kind of ghetto to screw on to over a fan. So I thought, why not create a really nice frame for it? And in the back side of the billet plate, and that was 3/16 inch thick, would be a recess, so the 22 gauge mesh would sit flush on the back side of it in place. Now, the challenge at the time is that I had to cut all those pieces by hand as the inserts for these grills. And then, since it's a bare steel, it will rust if you don't apply a clear coat over it. So I would cut these out, individual inserts to the grills, and then I would clear coat them with an enamel clear coat. So it took a lot of time to make these, but that was actually the second product that I was retailing through my store. And what you see here is an 80 millimeter one, but I also did 92 millimeter. You don't see 92 millimeters fans anymore, and then 120 millimeter, which at the time, 120 millimeter was new. In 2002, that was a new fan size. There was actually very few cases that would hold a 120 millimeter fan.
I remember using zip ties to install a 120 millimeter fan in the back of a hard drive cage.
Yeah, right. And then like the selection at the time, there was very few 120 millimeter fans that were like retailed. I mean, there was ones taken from servers used for server power supplies or cooling servers, but it wasn't really a retail product yet for our hobby.
And they were usually that heavy duty, the metal frame, if I'm remembering correctly too.
That's right. Now, at about this time, I'm still working full time, but I'm really getting in the computer building, and I'm loving it. And I get this idea of, well, what if I were to get into Toro's IT department so I could, be around computers more often? And I pitched it to my boss, and he pitched it to HR, and they said that they would be willing to pay for me to go to night school to get a certificate for A+ and M+ certification. And that was 9 months. And at the time, it was $9,000. And that was, I think, 3 nights a week, 6 to 10 o'clock at night. And that's actually where I met Computer Brad that was in our last Hangout in his N+ class. But the thing was, at that time, and this is 2002, is that when I finished school, there wasn't anybody hiring for IT. And it was because of the Y2K thing, they had really stacked up on employees, and there was like a freeze. No one was hiring anybody. And so I'm really falling in love with this idea of getting into computers and getting frustrated. And I literally pull out the phone book, the yellow pages, and I start paging through under computer technicians. I think it was computer technicians listing, and start calling businesses, cold calling businesses to see if they would even take on an intern. And I stumbled upon this listing where it said cool cases. That's all the listing said, was cool cases with the phone number. And I thought, well, this is odd, yet it's also cool. Cool cases. I mean, I'm kind of doing cool stuff with cases and cooling cases and stuff. And so just for the hell of it, and I was actually at work when I called. I called up, and Jim Hansen answered. And the first thing I said is, and he goes, cool cases. And I go, hey, what is cool cases? He goes, oh, well, what we do is we take and modify servers and workstations for better cooling. And I thought, really? This is like right up my alley. And we just started talking, and we must have talked for like a half hour, and it was already getting into like car talk with him. And I was like, this is right up my alley. And I explained to him that I was looking for like a job, and he's like, well, I'm not really looking for anybody, but hey, by all means, why don't you come on by and check out more of what we do, and maybe there's something I can come up with, to help, or you can just be an apprentice or something like that. So that following weekend, I drove out to Jim's place, and it was 45 minutes out of the city. It was in Maple Plain. And I started going out there every weekend and learning his trade of modifying cases for better cooling. And he was really catering more to like the commercial stuff. There was people that were getting like home server grade cases and that. But we can actually pull up his page in the web archive too. But if there's any questions at this point, let me know, guys.
None yet.
Cool. Easy peasy. Well, it's not pulling up at the moment here, so I don't want to get too far off base here. But in any case, Jim turned me on to these huge full towers that he was working with. It was Chenbro, Adtronics. There were some other ones too, but he taught me about Greenlee knockout punches, using U-channel for trim, how to do proper cable management. And so what I ended up doing was just hanging out at Jim's place, and I would help him with jobs just for cash. And I was still modifying cases on my own. And what I did is I started melding what I was learning from Jim from like a purpose-built modification standpoint, like to improve cooling in a server tower. I was taking the artistic creative side and then blending that with what I was learning from Jim. So modifying a chassis for better airflow, better cable management, fan controllers, how to lay out everything nice, and then bringing my exterior hot rod styling, custom paint, custom intakes, and stuff like that. So I started blending the two things together as I was learning. And I did that for years under Jim. And it got to the point where in this video, if you go to this page, gang, you can actually, I've got the videos from some of this stuff too, so you can watch the videos. And this video is from the Modman where I explain how the knockout punch works. But right here, I've got the SC195. So while I was working with Jim, I came up with my own version of taking a factory case and modifying it for better airflow and doing a custom intake grill on the front. And I started taking pre-orders for these through my website. And Jim had shown me how I could order a pallet of cases from a distributor at wholesale. And that would, I think it was like 30 cases on a pallet. and then I'd have them delivered to like this business, to their dock, and then I'd go there with my wife's pickup truck and load the back of the truck and bring them to Jim's. And then I'd put them in Jim's storage. And then what I would do is each weekend I'd go to Jim's place and use his tools to make the modifications to the chassis, and then buy the stuff from him wholesale that I needed, like better quality fans. That's when I learned about Panaflow fans, and I learned about Globe fans and what CFM meant, and decibel levels. And so for a while, I was doing pre-orders of these SC195s. And there's actually a review. Loki from Pimp Rig did a review on one, and then Overclockers Club at the time, and this is in 2004, did a review of one of my cases, the SC195. And the reason it was called the SC195 is because 195 stood for the CFM rate that went through the case. 195 cubic feet of air per minute was the measurement. So that's why that came up with that name. And then also what I would do is, if they wanted the carry handles, because LAN gaming was really big at that time still, to carry their case to a LAN event, they could do that. So I was offering all those options through my store, and then word was getting out about what I was doing, because it was only Jim and myself that were doing these type of modifications to cases. So that was 2004. Now we're moving on here to 2005. And this was this wasn't my first commission build. I'd done some other commission builds, but this was my first commercial commission build. CPU Magazine at the time reached out to me to do a build for their new limited series PC Modern magazine. I think they were doing 1 issue or maybe 2 issues per year. And they wanted a really cool, sexy, car-oriented case to highlight a system article. And so they reached out to me to build a case for them. And I thought, well, what if we did like a Corvette Stingray theme with a tower? And I thought that was pretty cool. And so we called it the CPU Stingray. And so that was my first commercial commission job for a magazine. And there it is. Actually, that was at Barnes & Noble at the time when I took that picture. That was pretty damn cool. And here's some pictures of the CPU Stingray. The front intake on it emulated a Corvette Stingray hood cowl, which was removable. I had RC hood pins to hold the front bezel on. And that's when I was delving into more body work, and I learned about using fiberglass body filler versus Bondo, the benefits of that. So take a break here.
I was going to say too, this is around the time that you put up one of the first videos of how to use the fiberglass body filler.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And people, Bondo is so commonplace because Bondo has the widest distribution, retail distribution. You can go to Walmart, and there was a time you could go to Target and get Bondo to patch the rust holes in your car. But Bondo is the worst thing you could use. It's awful. And there's a reason why the industry calls it mud. When it cures and dries, it can expand and crack. It's a pain in the ass. And I learned that using it. It was like I would patch up something and come back to it later, and there'd be like hairline cracks. And I've gotten in arguments with people online about it, like, oh, you're not doing it right. Well, I'll tell you what, the much better stuff, and I have a video of that now that Drew brings it up. You can see here, this is when I'm really getting to be an expert with the stuff. I posted this video in 2007 where I show how to do a front intake turbine style. And I'm using the fiberglass body filler for that. Let's see here. Everglass. There it is right there. This is the stuff you want to use, gang. If you want to do any kind of custom body work, whether it be even on your car or whatever, Everglass. You can get it through Amazon, and you have to get the blue cream hardener separate. They don't sell them together, so it actually it allows the filler to cure. Without it, it's just going to be mud. All right. So I started doing that, and I developed this whole following online of these turbine style front intakes. And I look back on it and it was a lot of fun. Nobody else was really doing it. Today it's old school. It's kind of silly, but it was really popular at the time, and it taught people about body filler and how it opened the door to other ideas.
Oh, that was also about the time where you were teaching us as modders and mod fans that as long as the infrastructure, that backspace is solid, it doesn't have to really look great, but it just has to hold. And there were so many people that were spazzing out over, I've got to make everything look perfect.
Oh, yeah. And the secret is to help you, the hole. There was actually, what was used for the hole was a speaker port tube, a bass speaker port tube. You can get them online from professional speaker companies or do-it-yourself speakers companies. Also, like when you make a subwoofer box for your car, they're called port tubes. And it was a molded plastic tube that was 4.5 inches, which is 120 millimeters. So it was perfect to put that in the hole to make it perfect versus, that's what I'm doing is I just take the filler and go around that. Like I'm frosting a cake, right, gang? So yeah, that was one of the things I got a following over. Then there came a point where like I swore I would never do a turbine again because it gets oversaturated. With a lot of people doing it. Now the third product, going back to this yellow, and unfortunately, finding old pictures in high resolution was a challenge. If you look on the top of this yellow tower here, what I used was a fuel cap ring from a motorcycle tank. You could buy these from I think it was Karyakin was the company. They're still around today. It's a fuel cap ring. All right, your gas cap will go in the center there, and that's pretty small though. I mean, that probably was a 60 millimeter fan in there. But I thought, what about making one to fit a much larger fan, like 120 millimeters? And that was the third product that I started making and selling. And I sold a lot of those. And actually, Performance PCs put an order in for some. So by the time you see this video, they may have them restocked again because they're still selling them. On my store, I wasn't. But yeah, the blowhole kits is what they were called. And there's me holding one of the last ones that I used on a build. It wasn't this project next to me. That was Scope E-Dog, and he used them as intakes on the front of his scratch-built tower. So yeah, that brings back memories. And the original blowhole ring that I did wasn't 120 millimeters. It was 92 millimeters again, because my 92 millimeter fans were much more prevalent back then. And 2006, this is when I really start focusing on more the case feet. Our case feet are getting more popular by people. And at the time, cases were more conducive to you being able to swap out the feet because they kind of had like a simple rubber pedestal foot on them. But people are like, well, I'm putting all this money and I really want to do something different. So how about custom feet? So that really took off. And at the same time, that's when I started the Mod Nation, and I got my workshop that I have today. And I started that with Stu King in the fall of 2006. And here I am in the workshop. It was much more cleaner back then, and I had much more hair back then, and I was skinnier. And yeah, I mean, you can just, the walls are cleaner. This is some of the builds that we had. And you can see in the background here, Drew, the Pimp Rig PC that I was working on.
Yes, sir. That's a thing of beauty.
And here's another picture. Now, this is a build that Stu had done. Very cool Spitfire airplane on, and then he's got like a turbine style intake, and he's got the blowhole ring on top. And those were in the shop. I don't know who did that mural on there, but I love that mural. And what's funny is I later learned that Moss, who's in the Hangout with us today and a Modzu staffer, he knew Stu King, and I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was actually how I first found out about Bill, is because I graduated from college and then I started working at where I still work now. And within a month of getting hired, I ended up having to fly out to San Francisco to be on site. And I was on a project with Stu. And so we were just sitting in a Pizza Hut in San Francisco, well, Foster City, technically, and eating dinner after we were on site all day. And he starts talking to me, and we were just chatting about all kinds of stuff. And he started talking about case modding and started showing me a bunch of pictures. And actually, the first thing he showed me is what Bill is showing you here, this Ghost Rider PC. So then I started getting into it more later, and I started watching videos, and I found some of Bill's videos of him doing tutorials and stuff in his shop, and I saw that hanging on the wall, and I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen that before. Didn't even click until I was like, wait a second.
That's crazy, man. It really is. This is a video that you'll have to go to my landmarks page through Mnpctech to find this video, and you can watch it. This was part one of the Ghost Rider build series that I did with Stu, and this was anticipation of the Nicolas Cage movie that was coming out that was just terrible, just crappy. But we were more in love with the comic. I read the comic in the 70s, and Stu loved comics. So it wasn't so much the movie that was dictating our inspiration. God, look at that Thermalright SI-128 CPU cooler. That's a monster. A 1U power supply in it. And what we were creating was a media center for the wall in the shop, something that we could play music and watch videos and access the web with. And if you recall, Windows had that media center keyboard that you could order, and you could get, media center in your Windows at the time. So that was really the drive behind creating that. And today the skull still hangs up in the shop, but the chassis has been dismantled and it's in storage. I haven't thrown it away. It's just in storage. What's cool about that build is, if you missed it, what I'm using, gang, is I'm using a Harley Davidson rim, and that's going to house the LCD inside of it. And yeah, so that was a cool idea. I still think today using a motorcycle rim.
I remember, not to get too far off subject, but I remember somebody actually took a rim that he had bought specifically to build a case in and just built the entire case in it.
That's happened with car rims a lot. I've seen builds like that. There was a point in this video, I think, where I'm look at that Monster Energy. Hey, there you go. I don't drink that anymore, gang. I can't drink that anymore. There was a point where I was grinding this wheel, and there was just sparks flying all over,
including like straight into your face.
Pretty much, yeah. But somebody, it was me yelling out, "Dude, that's sacrilege! You can't cut into a Harley rim." So yeah, that was the Mod Nation was Stu, and then that led to getting a commission build for AMD. I started on it the fall of 2006, and then it was delivered to CeBIT. CeBIT is the show in Germany, the tech show in Germany, and it was for AMD's booth to promote the release of their Phenom processor. And those of you who've been following my work since then know the inside story on that is that the PC was never returned back to AMD after the show. It went missing, which is quite extraordinary because the thing weighed like 90 pounds. It was all billet aluminum, and we had created an entire billet shell for this Thermaltake Sword M case. And the inspiration. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so if any of you bastards that are watching has this thing, let us know.
May it drop on your head. Yeah, it was badass. And there is a series. It's all documented on my channel, and this was the very first video where we're actually, the Sword M arrives, and we're brainstorming what we're going to do with this. And the inside story on this was, and this Sword M case was, it was fugly, guys. It was really ugly. It looked like it had a big skateboard attached on the top and bottom of it. And when it arrived, part of me was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to make this thing look cool? And I'll never forget that. There's like a, even looking at it now is just like, ugh. When this thing came out, it was like $300 or $400 because it had a liquid cooling system built in it with a radiator.
Oh, wasn't that one of those cases too where the frame was supposed to be part of the cooling?
That's right. That's right, Droog. The radiator was built into the door.
And I don't know if you guys just caught that, but just where he freeze framed, you can see the ribs on the outside of that shorter door.
Yeah, that was it was like it was extruded aluminum for like passive heat sink exterior. There's these weird rails on here that look like they belong on a boat. But no fear, we broke this thing down to its bare shell and we gave it an entire new skin. But okay, I keep going past it. What's funny about this, Mnpctech took so much pride in this creation that the engineer who designed it wrote this long description about how much he was in love with himself and this computer as he designed it, with his signature under the door. It's laser etched right there.
Yeah.
Right there. I think there's even a laser etch of his picture too. Or maybe it was the CEO of Mnpctech. I don't remember, but it was a monstrosity. And some people would say that what I did to it was a monstrosity too. But you know what? I got paid a lot of money and it got a lot of publicity, and I had fun, and it was no regrets.
And it was apparently cool enough for somebody to lift. So, hey, there you go.
Exactly. And the reason I found out about it missing, nobody came to me, this is weird. Years later, another individual that was the head of marketing at AMD, and that's when he reached out to me to do a build to the release of Activision's reboot of Wolfenstein. He reached out to me through Nate Suppley, who also had a computer business here in Minnesota at the time, through Twitter. And he asked, "Hey, Bill, by the way, whatever happened to that Phenom build that you built for AMD?" And that's when I said, "What are you talking about? I built that for you guys. It went to CBET." He's like, "Oh, no, it's not around. No one knows where it is." That's when I discovered that it had been missing. Nobody had reached out to me. So, yeah. The Wolfenstein build here, Wolfenstein, what's interesting about it, and a lot of people, they felt it was too violent, guys. They didn't like it, hey, and I understand it, World War II and stuff like that. Well, what I liked about the project is I had this challenge of taking an air rifle, which was they called them the grease guns, MP3, German MP3 gun, and actually make it into a handle. And now the air rifle was plastic. Obviously, it wouldn't hold up to holding the weight of the PC. So what we had to do, which you don't see, is inside we had to construct aluminum. Well, I had to modify the gun to fit over an aluminum bracket inside, which is the actual handle. So it looks like you're using the gun to carry the case, but actually it's got a lot of support in there. And the barrel tip was the power button and the hard drive activity. It illuminated with a, believe it or not, a cold cathode light. And then the switch in the back was for the lights inside the PC. This is also when we done we machined bullets for thumb screws, which I thought was pretty cool. And this was the case that we used was an NZXT Panzer. Yeah, it was just called the Panzer. Yeah, that's all it was. And that was the old NZXT from their old factory. Look, guys, we're already running out of time here. We're only in 2009. See, this is what I feared. If there's any questions, let me know, and I'll see whatever stuff we can share here.
Well, since we're relatively close to you having just shown off some of your videos, Boogles McGee wants to know if you're ever going to get back to your vlogs anytime soon on YouTube.
You know, I really enjoy doing those vlogs because it allowed me to kind of be more creative and free and not be confined to computer-related content. It was fun, and I could do, like, I love cars, talking about cars or, you know, my dog, stuff like that. But they didn't really, okay, the thing is, Mnpctech, my YouTube channel, the majority of my subscribers want this type of content that I'm sharing today, like PC mods, custom modding, guides, maybe some reviews once in a while. And when I start detracting from that core content, it falls flat with a lot of people that subscribe to my channel. And I know, well, just start another channel and you can do all that stuff on another channel. I don't want to start another channel. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, another member of the Peanut Gallery pops in. You might remember Trevor Foster.
Yeah,
Trev. The occasional de-icer snack on video too.
Yes. I mean, salt pellets. Yeah, I was getting pretty silly. I've got it. And what I've done is I've used, because we all fall into that, it's easier to share things on Facebook or Twitter. I've fallen in, so if I gotten silly, I've shared videos there versus in the vlog. But Boogles, thank you for the support of the vlog, and I'll keep that in mind. That there's some fans of that content.
I think what it is it's the difference between the people that follow your content and the people that follow you.
Yeah.
The people that are just there for your content don't like that crap, but the rest of us do.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, and that's why I've done it more like little vignettes on Facebook or Twitter. If I'm in a silly mood. What I'll do is I'll skip up here. As we got we got about 45 minutes left.
Yeah, let's just go and see what happens.
PC mod ruler. When I mentioned I was doing this hangout about Mnpctech this week, had a lot of people ask, "Oh, I remember I got one of your rulers." Then there's JoJo who's like, "When are you gonna make the rulers? I want one." This was in
I've still yet to pick one up too.
Loser, I've got mine right here.
I've never had both the money and the opportunity to buy one in stock.
Yeah, that was a lucky find for me to get both at the same time.
And there's yes, it is out of all of Mnpctech stuff, and we make a lot of stuff. The ruler is the most time-intensive product to make because of the mill time. I made a video, how's it made, my style, where I show the process and I tell you the stages of how the mill, and it takes 30 minutes to make, I think it's 3 rulers. And in production, gang, that's awful. That's not good. So when we would do the rulers is like when we had a gap of downtime for making parts. Okay, let's, over this next few days, let's see if we can get some rulers made. So that's why the rulers come and go, is because they just take up so much time. And yeah, now that I know that Moss needs one and doesn't have one, maybe we'll do something special for him.
If I get a mahogany one?
I don't know. How well would that engrave with a mill?
Not. You would end up just with a bunch of tarred off chunks.
Yeah, exactly. But this one is, okay, 2010. And I'm just going to skip around here. 2010 was really a huge year for Mnpctech and all the stuff that was going on. Very first fractal design case review ever, gang. right through my channel with Nate Suppley from Custom PC Max. And the reason being is because I reached out to Fractal Design's CEO directly, and he responded to me. And I said, I would like to review your case. And this was the Define R2. And right now we're at the R5 generation. And so you can watch this video, very first Fractal Design case review. We loved it. People loved it. Then that year, I did the District 9 build. This was my first, no, it wasn't my second time getting into weathered and distressed stuff. And looking back on this now, I bet I went a bit overboard. I think you got to learn to cut back on stuff. I look at that. It was cool, but you know, you look at your old projects and go, well, now that I've learned a lot, I wouldn't have done it that way today. This was also very interesting for 2010. Corsair reached out to me about designing a case for them. Huge learning experience. And if you look at this is the Corsair Carbide 400R. What does it remind you of, gang? Where did Bill draw some of his inspiration from? You know, that top portion there is evocative of another case that was very popular at the time. Any guesses?
Nope.
The Cooler Master half series had that hump up on top. And the reason for the hump on this one is because it was a recess for your hand so you could grab the top when you wanted to carry it. You wouldn't know that until you had one in person. And then it had the side panels bulged out so you could get larger CPU coolers. And it did it on both sides. And the benefit on the other side was cable management to make space. Now, here's what's really cool. And I'm proud of this. And also, in retrospect, I wouldn't have done things the way I did. This case still sells today through Newegg, and it won Newegg's Golden Egg Award for the best customer ratings. I believe that's over 1,000 customers have posted a rating on it. And in retrospect, as a business, learning more about the business now, I wish that I made a deal with Corsair to get a portion of the profit, because of the fact that this case has been on the market for 6 years now and it's selling. That would have been very lucrative versus the money I was paid up front. So that was a lesson I learned. But I also learned a lot of things about how you had to refine back things for production and profit margin. You have to work within a certain retail price. And so, of course, I went overboard in what I wanted. And they're like, no, we can't do all that because that doesn't meet the price point that we're trying to get at. So that was very educational for me. And what was cool is they sent me one to modify for them for their CES suite. And that's when I did the Firefly Serenity build, is the case that they gave me. And that was one of my favorite builds. This is what's funny too, inside story. After I finished it, and I sent pictures back to Corsair, somebody, I believe it was in Taiwan, said that I had the kanji wrong on it for the top grill, the kanji for the grill. He said it's upside down. And I said, well, this is a Firefly theme build. And if you're a Firefly fan, you know that their kanji is a hybrid. It's their own kanji. So it's not exactly, real kanji. So I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, and what's cool, Corsair still has this case today at their headquarters, and they've got a lot of my cases at their headquarters. All the stuff that I've done for them, they've kept. So I believe, I have never been there, but I believe that they've got people's builds on display, maybe in a hallway or something. I'm not sure, though. They could all be in a dark black storage room, too.
Oh, yeah, we've still got all those in the compactor.
Right, exactly. But Corsair, so kind to me, Corsair. Great relationship with them and Fractal Design. That same year, I'd gotten the first Corsair 600T, and that's when I'd come up with the clear panel for the 600T, which, gang, this could be the very first clear side panel that was retailed right here in 2010 from the 600T. And we still sell this panel today through Mnpctech.
And I have that case and the prototype for that panel.
Are you using it now?
I'm using the case. Well, okay. I was using the case until the power supply died on me 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But fortunately, I've got one inbound. But yeah, no, that's been a lovely case for me.
That's the case that's traveled its way through the zoo, because I had that case before Jeremy got it from me.
That's right. Yeah.
However, somebody else has the front panel that ended up stuck
Bill.
under
No,
Bill's seat.
I don't have it anymore. I gave it to you. That's funny. Yeah, it is. Dude, Jeremy, you got to keep that, man. There's a bit of history on that.
Yeah, if I ever retire it, I'll definitely set it aside somewhere and make sure it has a place of prominence.
Technically, Droog has the very first retail clear side panel, full clear side panel in his possession. That today, what manufacturer isn't getting on the bandwagon of full clear side panels? So another big thing in 2010, and it's funny, I made a joke of this the other day. I apologize to people. No, I'm sorry, not 2010, 2011. I had done this video revealing the wonders and joys of Dynoc. Carbon fiber, 3M's Dynoc carbon fiber film. Let's see, I can never find, there's a point here where I do a demonstration. Anyways, this was a video. Now, this had already been used in applications like commercial applications. Some people were car wrapping side view mirrors or hoods, or using it in interior decorating. I was the first to show it to the modding community. Hey, gang, you can do stuff like apply it to your mouse, make your mouse look carbon fiber. And the reason why I was the first to get this stuff is because my friend Jay Albrecht worked for 3M, and 3M is a Minnesota company, Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. He worked for their headquarters, and he calls me up one day and asks if he could come over and use the garage here at the shop to apply this stuff to the hood of his Jetta. And I like, what? What's going on? So he brings this huge roll over, and he starts showing me all the magical benefits of this stuff, where you can crumple it up and then you can uncrumple it and heat it, and it's perfect again. It's amazing. It's really truly a futuristic material, and I couldn't even tell you what it's. Some type of synthetic. I don't know really what it's made from, but look at that. That's just amazing. And so the case mod community ate this up. They loved it. And then you started seeing 3M make it in different colors: white, red, blue, silver, gold. And so many people were using it online that people were like, you're getting sick of it, sick of seeing it. Because, you know, in the modding community, people want to see people keep pushing the boundaries of design further and further. And when things get to be too commonplace, it's uncool, it's oversaturated. And they got kind of sick of it. So, but yeah, I was responsible for that, and I had posted an apology a few days ago about that. It was just in jest, though. So yeah, you can see here's a motherboard, the shroud that I did in Dynoc. Yeah, that same year we did the Modmen series. You guys remember that?
That I do.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. I loved watching that build. That was fun.
That was and what that the story behind Modmen was. I was approached by a producer that on a forum that was really into what I was doing, and he thought that if we could create a web series about what I do, he could make a sizzle reel from that. A sizzle reel is only a few minutes, and what it is that you go to a network and they watch that too. You pitch a show to them, and so we made a 5-part web series where it followed the progress of this scratch build here, the Modmen PC, and then I had tutorials, and I revealed the Tape of the Gods 4010 tape and some other little stuff in it each week, and then he did go to California and he pitched it to a couple of the big networks at the time, And the response was, this is cool, but a bit too DIY geeky for us. They were really wanting more drama driven stuff, you know. That's back when Orange County Choppers was big with junior and senior fighting and stuff like that.
And in this episode, Bill gets into a screaming match with his drill press.
And I thought, you know, my crew here in Minnesota, Brad and Randy, and I thought the last thing I want to do is like contrive drama, you know. And so we gave it a good try, gang.
Well, there's plenty of drama there, just none that's fit for TV.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to reveal, you know, people's inner skin and problems and that's not right, you know. And also, somebody, it was Heath Coop on Facebook, said that he missed a series and would like to have it come back. And my response was, you know, for the time and effort that we put into it, it just wasn't giving me enough return for my investment, which in turn meant like sales of Mnpctech stuff. I discovered that when you do a web series like that, which you make it more entertaining and kind of light on the DIY if you can, you reach a broader audience that aren't necessarily DIY people. They just like watching people make things. That didn't equate to sales for Mnpctech, so I didn't feel like I was getting like the return from that. And then I was also bringing in people like, could you do an Iron Man theme build for me, and how much? And then I would ask, well, which hardware have you picked out? Which case you want to use? I don't know. What case should I use? It just became this like rabbit hole of time black hole of time being sucked away with this stuff. And I just didn't have the time for it. And then a lot of times people didn't really justify how much it costs to do this stuff, you know? And I'll say this, in regards to last year, I'm going to skip ahead down here, because this is a really good example of, you know, after I did the Battlefield 1 tank last year, the first one, people out of the woodwork are like, would you build me one? How much to build me one? And I was just outright telling people on Twitter what it costs. And I believe it was for materials alone, my cost was $1,200 just in materials, okay? $1,200 in materials, because there's a lot of acrylic, parts have to get milled, plus my labor. 52 hours is what I clocked in just assembly time alone. That's just assembly time. That 52 hours at $75 an hour, okay? So you just, those two things, before you even talk about shipping or other stuff, you're already turning people off to the idea. You know, you're talking over $3,000 just for a case. Most people aren't going to pay that. Most people aren't going to justify that, you know? So that's why what I do, it's typically for very small market, or it's a commercial market like companies. You know, people just don't realize how much time goes into this stuff. And another example of that is another one that was brought up is the frozen CPU tech bench. That was an absurd amount of hours, and material was much more expensive to build that. And also, because the top was automated, we had to come up with ways to develop a system that worked for it. So that took many hours. That's just not something that you could really retail. And a lot of people out there, and people that are watching this video that do case mods for people or are kind of delving into pro modding, they're learning that as well, is that it's very hard to get what you really deserve for your time in doing these types of builds, you know? So, yeah, I'll just pause and take a break here.
This will be our first ever Modzu live hangout with intermission.
Yeah, yeah. Right on. This is, you know, again, my relationship with Corsair is a great relationship. They've been supportive of me since I started, and I was very lucky to get the very first 900D that came in the States. So I was the first to look at that, and then I did a mod with it, the bomber, the World War II bomber theme with it. But that was really cool. And then to have the guys from Create Design on our Hangout a few weeks ago that were behind that design just kind of brought the whole experience together for me, meeting them. And so there's been like these little opportunities that I've had that I've been so grateful for that I would have never imagined. And in 2012, I got to actually meet Kyle in person, the admin and co-founder of the Mod Zoo. He flew here from Europe, and we built the Lamboy Apocalypse. And there's a video of that. And this is the inside joke, is that Kyle hated the Lamboy Air. He hated that thing. And he didn't realize when he arrived, when he came to the shop, that that was the project that we were going to work on together. So I've done stuff like that to people. Yeah. And another big thing in, was this also in 2010? I got to go to CES with Fractal Design. This was a great opportunity, another learning opportunity, something I could have never afforded on my own. They actually invited me to share the booth with them. This space that you're seeing was on one of the main hallways in one of the main halls. That would have cost me on my own, gang, a space like that, of a setup like that for a full week. I don't know, $30,000-$40,000. I know what they paid for the main booth, but if I was just to pay for that portion right there, I could have never done it. And I walked away from CES with another big lesson, is that CES is not, it's not the format for what we do. It's people aren't really there to see case mods and custom PC stuff like this. I mean, they'll walk by and go, ooh, ah, like that. But as a business, it's not really for us. It's not worth it. If you have a company pay for a commission bill to be at their booth, by all means. But on your own to go there and try to promote what you do as a skill set, no. And thank God Fractal covered the bill for me. So always appreciate them for that. So hit me if any questions, gang, when I recharge.
No questions. But earlier on, and I was debating whether or not I would share this, but Jacob has joined in, and when you were first asking for questions, he was like, no, we just like to listen to Granddad telling us stories from the old times. We only know from history books. Right,
that's true. Yes.
It had only escalated from there.
Yep.
The old guy. Yep. Right here, this is an interview I did with Maximum PC Magazine. They did an article interview with me, and this was after, and I'd scan past it here. Maximum PC, super cool at the time, and it just hurts me that they're not the site isn't around anymore. It's not the same people and staff anymore. Gordon and John Phillips and Nathan Edwards. Big Star Trek fans, and David Gerald, who was a writer for the original Star Trek series, would periodically go into Maximum PC's offices because he was into computers and hang out with these guys. And they had this idea of, what if we hired Bill to do a Star Trek theme computer build, and then we give it away, and then we also give a second one to David as his new PC build. And they reached out to me to do that, and they paid for everything. And they had David Gerald at Comic-Con that year next to his computer signing autographs, and you had an opportunity to win the first one that I built. And that was another great experience for me. It was a lot of work. And Mike Okuda was also involved with the project, and Mike Okuda was a set designer for the Next Generation series. So it was just a great honor to do that build. And then, the fact that Maximum PC covered everything on it. And the one that was given away, the guy that got it reached out to me because he asked me if I wanted to buy it. And that happens a lot. These people enter giveaways, and then maybe they run into rough financial times, and hey, I could sell that prize that I got. It's worth thousands of dollars according to the giveaway. And they'll reach out to me and say, just to let you know, would you be interested in buying it back? Maybe you've got this special love affair with it and you miss it. And I said no. And he ended up listed on eBay for $8,000, and then that got a lot of controversy. Is a custom PC build really worth it for this? And he then decided that he wanted to keep it, and as far as I know, he still keeps it today. And David Gerald still uses the one that was built for him. And then again, like the Phenom build, the exterior is all milled aluminum. It weighed a ton. But if you dropped it, you didn't have to worry, right? So, yeah.
Well, speaking of the custom stuff like that, Spartan Mods asks, what is the weirdest thing someone has asked you to make?
Weirdest. There's been a lot of weird stuff. It may be because I'm an older guy that sometimes people come to me and they want they'll mention some anime thing or some game that I've never heard of, and they get into some really weird areas. That's interesting. I find it interesting because I get challenged by that. I guess it's like pop culture things of from stuff that I don't follow gets to be weird at times for me. But it's also kind of fascinating. I can tell you this, since we got Star Trek up on the screen here. There was an individual that wanted a Star Trek build. This is early on when I started, and he wanted based off, inspired by Star Trek pinball machine. And I don't know who came out with it, if it was Stern or Williams or whatever at the time, but there was a Star Trek. It may have been like the first or second generation pinball machine, and he wanted me to do a build inspired by that. And that never happened. But that was kind of odd, based on a pinball machine. I think you learn to expect any type of inquiry can happen, and you just treat it as okay. You kind of have an open mind about it. I can tell you this: the weirdest stuff that I've seen is look at Cheapskate's designs that he's done. Some of the stuff are way out of this world. Well, the NVIDIA Ion Cube. The story behind this, in 2009, Modders Inc. had, in cooperation with NVIDIA, had created an Ion mod contest. And it was a really interesting concept where they invited the public to submit designs for a modder. I think there was 5 of us modders, and the public submitted designs on a thread of ideas of what to do around the Ion ITX board. And as the modders, we could choose the design that we wanted to build, and then the 5 designs would compete against each other in a vote to see who won. And Cheaps, we call Cheapskate Cheaps. He had submitted, came in the thread and submitted the concept for this build that you see, the Ion Cube, and he mentioned my name in it. So right away he tagged me to it, and the public are watching this, and I'm thinking, oh God, how am I gonna build that? And I guess I just you know what? It's a challenge, right? So I took on the challenge, and Cheaps ended up doing this design, and I built it. And so this is an example of delving into the mind of Cheaps right here. His mad genius, outer world, crazy, weird sci-fi stuff. And this ended up winning the contest. So, and it's funny is that, this is another one of those things that after it was built, people are like, how much? I want one. I want one. How do I get one? It's like, you don't understand how many hours went into this. It's just not something we can produce again and make money from, or you would never pay as much as we would need to get. So that actually led to working with Cheaps on a lot of other designs. Him and I developed a great partnership where I can, we kind of can read each other on stuff. So yeah, there's a crazy example right there for you. And what we can do, gang, is we can go another 10 minutes here. This was another product that I released that year, was the billet case handles that still sell today. And I learned later on that they actually sell better sold as individual handles, not as a pair. It's one of those things that you don't think about. Yeah, once we started listing them on the store individually, more people were buying them. Just yeah. In fact, we got to do another one of those soon. That same year, Eel Ambience from Florida, who's a Modzu co-founder, and we're going to have in a future hangout in the Founder Series. He came up to Minnesota so we could do this project, Not a List, the Case Mod movie. And this was in 2009. And this was also kind of a preview to the format that you see a lot of build logs now on YouTube. People are now incorporating a story into their builds. We're going to Micro Center here to get parts, stuff like that. We were already delving into that, and so you can watch that via this page too. There's the rust effect. In fact, while Eel was here, we did a tutorial on how to give your parts a realistic rust effect. Look at this thing. Looks like it was dredged up from the bottom of the ocean. Or you get hepatitis if you touch it too.
And that was the stuff that you painted on, and it just left the very thin iron layering on it, right? And then you would oxidize that. That's
exactly right. You can get it. It's called, I think it's called sophisticated. You can get it at Michael's or any art supply stores. I think it's called like Sophisticated Finishes or something like that. It's in a bottle, and it's a process. All you need is a brush, and it happens within like a half hour or so. Yeah, we really went overboard with this though.
Yeah, and but it looks good though, dude.
It's crazy. And this we gave to John Hanlon, our good friend John Hanlon. He's got this still today. There's Eel. Skate punk Eel. So yeah, we'll zooming on up to another opportunity, big experience that I had was the Deep Cool Tri-Stellar Bill Owen Signature Series Edition. I think in retrospect, I would have done that differently. The agreement with them, I would have never put my name on it. I would have put Mnpctech. I think for marketing, Mnpctech would have been much smarter than Bill Owen. People are like, Bill Owen? Who's that? Somebody in China or another part of the world, they're not familiar with who I am. So, but cool project. It was cool to hear from the people. My friend Darren here in Minnesota bought one, and he loves it. That was cool to hear from the people that got it. And then in 2014, as Moss knows, we started delving into creating content for the Modzu on my channel, because this is before we had a Modzu YouTube channel. We were doing tutorials. and Captain Curry Sauce was helping. We felt that there wasn't a real good, thorough liquid cooling guide out there for somebody that never done it before. So Moss and Captain Curry came to my shop, and we did this series on guide to PC water cooling. And yeah. So educating people. We also did some other videos like hardline compression fittings, the first generation wave of those fittings. And we've always said we would do another video, but we haven't yet.
That's right. The eternal world of, we should follow up on that.
Yeah. We always we should do this. We should do that. All these great ideas all the time. And just what happens? Just time.
Life.
Yeah, life gets in the way. But about this point, 2014 through 2015, a lot of my focus is really on my store, and I'm not making those of you that follow my channel. I'm not really producing the videos like I was, because I'm now relying on the store to pay the bills, making products, creating new products. And then I would occasionally do like a product announcement or a tutorial of the product on my channel. Not so much the epic build logs. And this is really weird. I stumbled into this market niche of making replacement windows for factory windows, because those of you you've ordered one from me for your NZXT, your Corsair, or your Fantex. For example, this right here, going back to the Corsair 900D, the factory window from the Corsair 900D had this really weird tint to it, kind of purplish tint, and people didn't like it, and it's still like that today. So they asked me if I could make a clear replacement window, and so that's what we started doing, and then that led to people asking for replacement windows for NZXT cases. And what's baffling is today, these companies still haven't really answered that consumer request to make better quality windows, even as an option through their stores, as an aftermarket add-on, a replacement part, but that's better than the original. So I really tapped into this market and have capitalized on it a lot.
Well, let's not forget too that right around this time was when you made your store apparently a lot easier to use too.
Yes, you're right. That's very true, Drew. My store was awful. In fact, in many ways, looking back on it, because we use just PayPal exclusively, and that's changed today, gang. You can now use credit cards, and that's really helped sales. But for the longest time, I relied on PayPal. And I'm learning, right? I'm learning about all these things about running the store, and that there's still a lot of people that don't like PayPal. The navigation through my store it was basic HTML pages. You had to page through. And boy, I don't know what year we did this new format now, but it's made everyone's life a bit easier. I have some regrets on how things are categorized. It could have been better, and it's kind of too late because it's all set in place. But for the most part, people find stuff, the pages through Google searches, and they land right on the page and they order, because they kind of people know what they want and what they're looking for, and we're just going to keep expanding upon it. Yeah.
Well, we got one more good question here from Eric Steele. Would like to know what your thoughts are on the case makers starting to use composite materials in the manufacture of their cases. Do you think this is going to be something that really takes off?
Composite like carbon fiber?
Erica, did you hear that question? Let us know. Carbon fiber, or do you have any other composites in mind?
Yeah, let me know. Give us an example of a case that you're referring to. Is there somebody making this case? Is it a manufacturer or not?
Well, I think he's looking at the possibility.
Well, somebody said this, because I a few weeks ago I posted this video. We've started making carbon fiber PC cable combs, okay? And carbon fiber there's a huge learning curve in working with it. It's just not something you can go out. You can't laser cut it. You can't mill it. There's a process involved with it, and it's somebody said on my channel that the price is coming down on it, and I don't know where that's coming from. But if that is the case, and if manufacturers can incorporate it to bring the price down, it's all about the retail price. If people can justify what they're getting at a retail price, it will sell. Like these combs, $4.99 a comb, most people, that's ridiculous. But you know what? They're selling. They're selling every day because people know no one else is making a carbon fiber comb, because I was crazy enough to delve into doing it. It's one of those things that I pride myself like, well, no one else has done it. I'm going to capitalize and do it. And then I learned, the whole process involved. So
speaking of carbon fiber cases, and earlier you mentioned RoboDuck, didn't he go on an adventure trying to create a carbon fiber case?
That's
Pretty
right.
sure.
And there's somewhere there's a video, Moss, where he's in my shop, and I think you were here too.
I was there, yeah.
Yeah, there is. I don't know if I can find it through if it was Facebook that we posted a video, or I think it may have been even the Madu fan page that we posted a video. I'm not sure. But yeah, he had created a carbon fiber case, but the thing is, they were just sheets of carbon fiber. They weren't molded or shaped.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
And he used those, like, I think he had, at that point, he had red anodized, like those little corner blocks and stuff that he used, and the little red screws.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to stop screen sharing here, gang. But, it's hard to delve into 16 years in an hour and a half. Kind of skipped around.
Hey, we can always come back for part 2, 3, 18.
No, we've actually got a schedule for the Hangout already confirmed and reserved.
And ridiculous. The Mod Zoo planning stuff out.
I know it's unheard of.
2017, the year the Mod Zoo died.
Well, it would just be this channel then, right? In the Hangouts left. We're going to have some really cool guests still, because that we try to draw people that, just like I was sharing, made a significant mark on the hobby over the last decade in either being a modder or a manufacturer, or they did something. And that's the type of guest we want to have, because we find it interesting. Also, get back to cars. I love cars, and I want to do an episode where we have some Mod Zoo members that have interesting cars. Because I love to talk about cars too. And again, computers and cars go hand in hand with a lot of people. So there's definitely, I'm sure there's more than enough guests for that episode would be available,
Yes,
so
indeed.
If there isn't any other questions, we can close out.
Let's see here. No, there's just more talk about the price of carbon fiber does seem to be coming down, and I'm betting what it is the processes for the epoxies are starting to get cheaper.
Yeah. Everything evolves into a quicker process, right?
Yeah.
And to increase that profit margin. So if composites can come into our market, I'm all for it. I'm already trying to delve into it. I've said on Twitter that what else could we make from carbon fiber, like GPU supports, other than just, fan grills and radiator grills. GPU supports would be cool. Sure, think of some other stuff too. Yeah. So those of you that are new to this Hangout, we do this Hangout live every Sunday, 4 p.m. Central Time. And subscribe to the Mod Zoo YouTube channel so you don't miss it. And I might even share this video on my own channel too, so we can bring in some new subscribers that are unaware of what we're doing on the Mod Zoo channel. So if you're watching this on Mnpctech's channel, I'll put a link to the ModZoo channel in the video description for you. So
awesome. So I'm looking ahead at the little bit of schedule information that I have upcoming. I don't see what's for next week, Bill. What do you have fixed?
That one, that one's actually, that is open. I did that because I was waiting for somebody to commit on it, and they're hiding from me.
Yeah, okay.
I think
All
I
right.
hinted at who that was earlier, and you guys weren't surprised that he's a bit camera shy, and I pretty much I'll have to drag him in.
All right, so we'll leave that one hanging open as far as its potential. But
I created a thumbnail for it, so it's official.
It is? What is that, Moss? What is it one?
I don't know. I thought I made one.
Did you? I don't think you did, man. Not for next week. I left that open.
Yeah, no, I don't have a thumbnail for that.
Oh, gotcha. Never mind. I lied.
Yeah, yeah. That one, I know what I would like to do, but it's a matter of the individual being available for it. And if they can't do it, I've got a backup plan that you guys will find interesting.
Oh God, the Wheel of Doom is coming back.
No, no, it's not. I wouldn't do that to them. There is an episode. I've been following these channels on YouTube of people that collect supercomputers, have supercomputers in their garage or their pole barn. Cray, Sun Microsystems, SGI, IBM, big data center size supercomputers. There's guys that are collecting these because the price has come way down on older ones. You can get into them affordably now, and there's guys that we know that are collecting them. And so
with the size of some of these PCs, you can literally get into them for really cheap.
Yes, it can serve as an ice house in the wintertime.
Or an outhouse.
Or an outhouse.
Heated even.
Yes, heated for sure. But
we're going to do Cray Crapper.
Cray Crapper. We're going to do an episode about that because I've even looked on eBay, just like Sun Microsystems, just out of curiosity, and prices are a couple $100. Shipping may be expensive, but yeah, man.
And in 2 weeks, that's going to be in 3 weeks from now. So if you guys know of anyone who's got any cool stuff that you want to tell us some stories of, or maybe share something about, you've got 3 weeks for that. In 2 weeks, it's going to be 1, my birthday, and 2, we're going to have a couple of extra special guests on, former Pimp Rig members, and we're going to be telling epic stories. You got
epic stories.
Get your favorite epic story. Doesn't have to be computer related or mod related. Just come up with a good story and share it with us in the chat. We'll share it out with the rest of the world. We'll tell our own. Going to be a fun little round robin kind of thing. And then we kick back in 4 weeks from now with the next in the Founder series, Eel. And then 5 weeks out, we're going to have a live in studio, so to speak, actual episode of the ModZoo podcast only on the Hangout.
Yep. Yeah, that'll be fun. And one of the individuals is very camera shy and has been hiding from me. So yeah, we'll force him out of his cave and in front of the camera. And you know what I do is I sent him a brand new camera and a headset, and I said, well, look, I've spent all this money. You've got to get on here now.
He has been on the Hangout before when we did our proto Hangout, and the only reason he showed up was because I just sent out a blast guest, invitation to everyone, and he just sat down, dialed in. I never expected to see him, and there we are.
That was weird. Yeah,
it was. But, so anyway, I think right now this is probably our record setting for time. 90 something minutes right now, and it was a blast. A lot of great information. Go to www.themodzoo.com and check out our forums. Go to mnpctech.com, check out Bill's store and help support him. Keeping him going keeps us going, and it's just a great big pile that builds up. spread the love. Find our links to our media. We're on social media. We've got Facebook, Twitter. We're not getting into anything other than those two and Google Plus. There's just not enough time. We don't have enough people. And really, you don't want to see my idea of what a good Instagram would be. It'd just be horrifying. So, yeah, no, we're not going there. But yeah, you've got a couple of weeks to come up with some epic stories. You got some 3 weeks now to come up with some great supercomputer information. And we're always moving ahead. So again, come back next week. And we're hoping that you'll have something that you've modded and that you've put up on themonzu.com to share with us. And until then, we'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
Thank you.